What's up, Psychedelic Investors? My name's James, and you're watching The Psychedelic Investor. Today, we have an absolutely fantastic episode for you today, and that is because we are going to be breaking down the top 10 holdings in the brand new Psychedelic Medicines ETF, the PSIL Psychedelic Medicines ETF run by Advisor Shares. Now, this ETF went live yesterday on Thursday, and actually, not to toot our own horn or anything, we were kind of the people that broke the news that it was going to go live that day. So now that it is out and in the wild, we can see which companies PSIL decided to invest in and what the ratios are between the different companies. So that is what we're going to be doing in today's episode. We're going to look at their top 10 holdings in the Psychedelic Medicines ETF, and I'll discuss whether or not I agree with the rankings, where I differ with this ETF, and whether or not I am going to invest in the ETF. But first, now is a great time to remind you guys all of our partnership with PsychedelicSpotlight.com. Now, for those of you that don't know who PsychedelicSpotlight.com is, well, first of all, what are you doing with your lives? Second of all, they are a fantastic news media organization that is dedicated to disseminating information on psychedelics. So this does include investing in psychedelics, but it also includes cultural pieces, economic pieces, and so much more. They are an absolutely fantastic resource for psychedelic medicines. So what is new when it comes to PsychedelicSpotlight.com is their weekly newsletter now features a 3 to 4 minute video from yours truly. If you go to PsychedelicSpotlight.com, you go up, you sign up for their weekly free newsletter. Not only will you get all the most important news of the week and all the different cultural pieces, you'll also get me breaking down the most important things that happened over the past week in a nice little 3.5 to 4 minute long soundbite. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode at hand, which is again the top 10 psychedelic stocks to buy according to Advisor Shares. So getting into the PSIL holdings here, the very first important thing to mention is that it is still relatively small. It only has about $245,000 under management as of September 16th. Now, I know that some of you guys probably have a portfolio larger than that, and this actually caused a little bit of confusion on Reddit. The reason it is so small is because that was just the very first day of buying. PSIL and Advisor Shares are still buying more stocks, although we don't necessarily know how much. Just based on how much they obtained on the first day, it is looking like this ETF is actually going to be smaller than I originally thought, but there is still lots of room for growth, and we don't exactly know how large this ETF is going to end up being. Just for comparison's sake, MSOS, I guess is how you call it. MSOS kind of has a nice ring to it, which is Advisor Shares' largest marijuana ETF. They have $778 million under management, so almost $1 billion. So even if PSIL has a fraction of that, we're probably still looking at a portfolio that has millions or tens of millions of dollars in it. So just be aware that this is going to grow over the coming days and weeks. So with a huge asterisk that the weightings here between the different companies, now we're getting into the top 10 guys, the weightings could change as they add more shares. Let's take a look at the makeup of this portfolio. Now, quick reminder that this is actively managed as opposed to passively managed, which allows the experts who are choosing the stocks for this portfolio to be able to invest in what they consider to be undervalued stocks. And this allows them, if they are correct, to gain the difference between what the market currently values them at and what they believe their value to be at. So this is a little different from, say, a passively managed portfolio like Horizon Psych ETF, where they're just based on their market cap. So with like the million asterisks out of the way, I know, you're probably yelling at your screen by now, just get into it, get to the top 10. Let's do it. So taking a look here at their top 5, there's not really any surprise. This is more or less the same as my top 5. Though the order does differ a little bit. For example, they have Cybin in number 1 and Field Trip in number 2. Personally, in my rankings of the psychedelic medicines companies, I have Cybin as number 4 and Field Trip as number 6. But when you look at their market caps, you can begin to understand why Advisor Shares may have put the largest position in these two companies. So both Cybin and Field Trip are about 3 to 4 times smaller when it comes to market cap than MindMed, and are both 7 to 8 times smaller than ATAI. So if, and this is a big speculative if, and not one that I'm necessarily convinced on, but if Cybin and Field Trip end up being as successful as MindMed and ATAI in the long run, then there is much more upside to investing in these companies now. I'm going to give you a hypothetical with nice round numbers, not necessarily a prediction or anything like that. You could imagine if in, say, 10 years, both MindMed and Cybin were valuated at $10 billion, that would be about a 10x for MindMed, which would be great. Nobody would scoff their nose at a 10x. That's not the saying, but whatever. Nobody would turn their nose at a 10x, but it would be a 30 to 40x for Cybin. So again, this relies on Cybin one day being as successful as MindMed, which isn't necessarily a thesis that I prescribe to, but if they are correct here, it makes sense why you would put a larger percentage of your portfolio into these smaller cap stocks. And that obviously isn't the only reason. What is particularly exciting about both Cybin and Field Trip is their work on second-generation psychedelics. So these second-generation psychedelics are similar in structure to classical psychedelics, but have been structurally modified to make them more practical in a therapy setting than their parent drugs. So for example, Field Trip is getting ready to start phase 1 clinical trials on FT104, which is a compound that is similar to psilocybin, but the duration of effect is only 2 to 3 hours, rather than the classical 6 to 10 hours. This is going to make it a much more practical drug for therapeutic use and make psilocybin therapy more accessible. They plan to use this drug to originally treat postpartum and treatment-resistant depression, with phase 1 trials starting this year. In fact, analyst firm H.C. Wainwright recently gave Field Trip a $20 price target based on the potential for FT104, which is almost a 4x from current levels. Likewise, Cybin has CYB003, which is a modified psilocybin that also has a shorter duration of time and is delivered in a form of dissolvable tablet. Once they can move CYB003 to clinical trials, the very first disease they will attempt to treat will be alcohol use disorder. The timeline for this compound is a little bit later than FT104, but we should still expect to see phase 1 trials next year. When you look at the 7 analysts covering Cybin at the moment, the average price target is $8.29, so again, almost a 4x from current levels. Looking at the top 2 positions in this portfolio, and again, they may be subject to change as they add more stocks, we can see clearly that the strategy of PSIL, is to go big on firms working on second-generation psychedelics that may have a smaller market capitalization right now. Or specifically, they're going big on them because they do have a smaller market capitalization right now. If this bet is correct, and to be clear, I have no idea if this bet is going to be correct or not, then by having larger positions in these 2 companies as compared to the $3 billion plus companies, the 3 different billion dollar plus companies, MindMed, ATAI, and Compass Pathways, then they stand to make a lot of money off of these 2 different companies. And of course, everybody that invests in the ETF would stand to make a lot of money. And again, just to be clear, I have no idea if this bet is going to be correct or not. Now, if they work as advertised, the 2 different substances, FT104 and CYB003, then fantastic, amazing gangbusters, but frankly, it's just too early to tell. We haven't even seen like phase 1 trials for these different drugs yet. We haven't seen the data yet, so I would cool the horses just a tad, but again, I'm hoping for them to work. So personally, the only non-ETF stocks that I hold in the psychedelic medicines space are, at the moment, although it could be subject to change, MindMed, ATAI, and Compass, because they are the farthest advanced in the clinical trial space with classical psychedelics, and they are also working on 2nd and 3rd generation compounds. I will definitely, at some point, when my finances and portfolio balance requirements permit it, add some PSIL to my portfolio. This is going to help me diversify my psychedelics portfolio and give me more exposure to great companies like Cybin and Field Trip. And here is as good a spot as any just to tell you guys that this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you guys my own personal opinion and explaining what I intend to do with my own money and how I intend to be responsible with it. Moving on to round out the top 5, we have MindMed, ATAI, and Compass. So, no surprises here. They're in the top 5. These 3 companies are definitely the most advanced when it comes to the science of psychedelics and are the closest to actually getting any of these psychedelic drugs to market. Now, I am assuming that these 3 didn't make the top 3 spots just because the people at Advisor Shares see less of an upside financially than the lower market cap stocks of Cybin and Field Trip. Though, to be fair, it does need to be pointed out that the portfolio weight difference between the top slot and the 5th spot is actually pretty small, with Cybin making up around 10% of the total portfolio and Compass 7%. All 3 of these companies have at least one phase 2 trial underway, and they are working behind the scenes on next-generation psychedelics, though they have not yet talked specifically about their next-generation compounds as openly as Field Trip and Cybin has, but that doesn't mean that they don't have them. Looking past the top 5, we do actually have a couple surprises rounding out the top 10. For example, in number 6, we have GreenBrook TMS, a company working to treat depression with something called transcranial magnetic stimulation. Apparently, this provides local electromagnetic stimulation to specific brain regions known to function in mood regulation. Now, to be completely clear with you guys, I have zero idea if this is going to work or not, but apparently they are also testing doing this in conjunction with S-ketamine, a nasal spray of S-ketamine to be specific, which is why it was included in this ETF. They're also included in Horizon's Psych ETF, so I guess it's not too surprising that they were found in this one, but I am honestly surprised at their 6th place rank. In number 7, we have Wesana Health, which is the Mike Tyson-funded company founded by former NHL player Daniel Carcillo. This is a company working with psilocybin, among other compounds, to treat traumatic brain injury. Now, this is something that there has been anecdotal evidence among professional sports players like Mike Tyson and Daniel Carcillo. Lots of anecdotal evidence that psilocybin can help treat traumatic brain injury. But again, here I am surprised this company is so prominently featured in the ETF because when it comes to research into this area, into this indication, we're at the very starting line. There is a long way to go before we can say with any level of certainty that drugs like psilocybin may help with traumatic brain injury. To be clear, I'm not saying that it won't help, but we just need to see the evidence. Plus, Wesana is a very, very small company with a market cap of only around $48 million Canadian. So raising the necessary capital will be difficult. However, on the flip side, if Wesana is ultimately successful, then this would have an enormous upside for the ETF, seeing as it currently has such a low market cap now. Now, to be clear, I'm kind of agnostic on the company, but honestly, it's kind of cool to see them included, and I wish them the best. In number 8, we have Seelos Therapeutics, and frankly guys, Seelos is a company that I should have talked about more on this show. We mentioned them a couple times, but we never really just seemed to have the time to bring them up and do a full in-depth episode on. Though they have other programs, their main focus is on treating central nervous system disorders with isomers of ketamine, like S and R ketamine. They actually already have completed a phase 2A trial treating acute suicide ideation and major depressive disorder with their version of S-ketamine. So this is an exciting company, and it does not surprise me at all to find them in the top 10 here. Number 9, however, is a complete shock to me because, frankly, I would have ranked them much higher. I have them in my top 5, and that is, of course, Numinus Wellness. Because Numinus is working with MAPS, who, by the way, is the leader in psychedelic research, even though they're non-for-profit, because they're working with MAPS on treating PTSD with MDMA-assisted psychotherapy in a compassionate access trial, and they're working to treat addiction with psilocybin, again in a compassionate access trial, I personally would have ranked them higher. Plus, they already have ketamine clinics across Canada. Nevertheless, despite the fact that I personally would have ranked them higher, being in the top 10 ain't too shabby. Speaking of which, getting to the 10th place, we have Core One Labs, who we have talked about here before, but not recently. They are another small company with a market cap of around $35 million Canadian, and they mostly focus on delivery methods and production of compounds like psilocybin. Their thin strip delivery method of psilocybin seems to be what the company is most proud of, though they do also have 2 different treatment centers in Canada. So as you guys saw, there were some big surprises in this ETF, and just again a reminder that it's not necessarily finalized as they continue to add more stocks. I don't know as they continue to add more capital to their portfolio if these ratios will hold or not, but I suspect they will. Why else would you have started in this ratio? I think that as they just add more money, it's going to stay in the same ratio as we have now. But importantly, what do you guys think? Do you agree with these rankings or not? Would have you done something different? If so, let me know down in the comment section. Also, let me know if you plan on investing in PSIL. Like I said, I will be doing so, though not necessarily anytime in the next couple weeks. Again, I need to figure out my own portfolio. And of course, guys, if you enjoyed the episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, show it to your dog. One person said he didn't have a dog, but he showed it to his cat. That works too. Share it with your mom. Comment down below, all that good stuff. And don't forget to go check out psychedelicspotlight.com, sign up for the newsletter, and see yours truly every week giving you a 4-minute breakdown of the most important stories of the last week. This is James from the Psychedelic Investor. I will see you next time. Don't forget to watch a video on your screen now. Peace, guys. Love you. Bye.